Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Liberty Counsel announces the 9th annual Friend or Foe graduation prayer campaign. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action and Associate Dean with Liberty University School of Law, in for Matt Staver today. And joining me in studio is Shawn Akers, Dean of Liberty's Helms School of Government and Policy Analyst with Liberty Counsel. Well, Shawn, it's that time of year again. The ACLU is busy about the business of sending out their disinformation letter mailing campaign to school districts around the country, threatening lawsuits if students or anyone at graduation ceremonies that are being held around the country should happen to pray, something that the United States Supreme Court has held over and over again, that student-led, student-initiated prayer is permissible, and certainly within the very, very limited bounds of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. Well, Liberty Counsel, we try to educate the public, school districts, and undo much of the disinformation that the ACLU and other atheist and anti-Christian, anti-religious organizations put out there. We have an education campaign at our website, lc.org. If people go there and click on the icon, I Will Pray, we have a memo on graduation prayer that itemizes students, faculty, staff, their rights as they pertain to graduation prayer.
You know, Matt, this is one of those things that reaches everywhere, and the pattern is largely the same. Almost every time that we see this come up, we've got a very slim minority, usually a single student, who decides to hold an entire school captive by threatening to bring in the ACLU and the big specter of the ACLU looking over your shoulder. The school officials often feel that it's easier just to kowtow to the threat than to stand up for the rights of the students and the school itself. And the fact is, as we've discussed all along, these students don't shed their constitutional rights as they walk on the school grounds. They are still absolutely protected by both the laws of nature and nature's God and those that are reflected specifically in the Constitution of the United States. They have not lost their right to pray.
Well, Liberty Counsel seeks to educate and, even if necessary, Shawn, litigate to ensure that prayer and religious viewpoints, that free speech, freedom of religious expression are not suppressed during these graduation ceremonies. And Liberty Counsel will be a friend of schools that recognize and honor the free speech rights. These are unalienable rights guaranteed not just by God, as you mentioned, Shawn, but by the First Amendment. The free speech rights of students, and we will, at Liberty Counsel, be a foe to those school districts, to those administrations that violate students' constitutional rights. Liberty Counsel, as I mentioned, has published a free legal memo at lc.org. People click on the I Will Pray icon. We also encourage students to wear Liberty Counsel's red I Will Pray wristbands as a reminder to pray at their graduation ceremonies. And I can't think of with everything going on in this country right now, with this Obama administration, with liberals in Congress really rolling the dice in terms of the future of young people. They need to be in prayer about their future, about what lies ahead, as much of it and the trajectory we find ourselves heading down as a nation right now is a bit daunting.
Well, and Liberty Counsel's gone a long way to take away the excuses of both the students, their families, and the schools by providing, you can go right to lc.org and you can become educated on exactly where your rights are and where they aren't, where the lines are drawn, where you have rights, and know them going in. And I'll tell you, there's a story that we're all very very familiar with here, of just how this provides a leadership opportunity for the students. In 2006, Liberty Counsel represented a young lady named Megan Chapman, Matt, and the ACLU was successful in that case in getting an order against Megan, saying that she's not going to be allowed to mention Christ in her speech at graduation. But Matt, after some education, the entire senior class of her school at Russell Springs, Kentucky, stood up and recited the Lord's Prayer as she took the podium. So, where they silenced or attempted to silence one voice, what they did was give a voice to an entire student body. What a wonderful way to stand up to a Goliath and say, "Don't tread on me."
Well, and that's how the Lord rolls, if you will. I mean, takes something that is intended for evil like that and uses it for good. Takes it and turns it on those who intend evil. In this case, thousands of fold, with the students on their own initiative standing up and in unison citing the Lord's Prayer and saying to the ACLU, hey, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Well, and the good just went on and on and on, because when Liberty University and Jerry Falwell Jr. found out, Senior, before he passed away, found out about the bravery of Megan Chapman and her sister Mandy, they gave them both full scholarships to Liberty University. So the good that came out of what was intended to be evil in that case is extraordinary. You had an entire class standing up for God and reading the Lord's Prayer, and you've got two young ladies that are now going on being trained as leaders. I kind of think the ACLU probably wishes they just left those little girls alone.
Yeah, well, and now Megan and Mandy have both graduated from Liberty University, and Megan has just wrapped up her first year as a Liberty University School of Law student. So, as you point out, the ACLU may have created a bit of a monster here that's going to come back to bite them. Well, Shawn, the Constitution is clear, but precedent is clear as well. In Supreme Court case, the judicial precedent is clear. In a precedent-setting case against the ACLU, Adler v. Duval County School Board, Liberty Counsel again won the right of students to pray or give religious messages at graduation. The case established the legal principle that public schools are free to adopt a policy that permits students or other speakers to present secular or religious messages, including prayer at commencement ceremonies. And this notion of separation of church and state, this phrase that originated with Thomas Jefferson in a letter to the Danbury Baptists, where he was reassuring them not to fear that the state would not infringe upon their rights to freedom of religion, has been flipped on its head. Now you hear the term separation of church and state only used one time by Thomas Jefferson in this one letter, bandied about by liberals and separationists who seek to undermine the Constitution, seek to remove any reference to Christianity, particularly religion generally, from any public forum in the public square. We've taken prayer out of schools. We've, guess what? We're not ashamed to say here at Liberty Counsel, we are working to get prayer back into schools like it was during the time of our founding, and in keeping with case precedent. Again, when students initiate prayer, they have every right under the First Amendment at graduation to get up and share their story about how Christ has affected their lives. Valedictorians, for instance, and they have every right to both individually and corporately engage in prayer at their graduation ceremonies.
Matt, we don't have time to get into it today, but the fact is this has been turned 180 degrees off of where it started. Neither Jefferson nor any of the rest of the founders were in any way anti-God. What they were was anti-tyranny. They didn't want the state being able to come in and have an official religion that forced you to take part in it. It wanted you to be free in all spheres, public and private, to worship God as you saw fit. Now, I wish we had more time to discuss it, because I think if we looked at it closely, you'd see that there is indeed an official U.S. religion. It's called secular humanism, Matt, but we'll have to save that for another discussion.
Well, folks, tomorrow on Faith and Freedom, we're going to discuss a New Jersey school that Liberty Counsel has reached out, offered to help, who, again, the ACLU is threatening them over holding a graduation ceremony at a religious facility. Again, spreading misinformation and disinformation at Liberty Counsel. We are here to correct that misinformation and that disinformation, to educate you, to educate the public, to educate officials and administrations and so forth on their rights as they pertain to religious free exercise. Go to lc.org to learn more about what we're doing at Liberty Counsel, or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Stand with us as we stand in the gap.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.